I've got a really big video for you today. We have Crypto Lewis back here, also known as XRP Lewis, talking about Ripple's banking license and the massive impact it could have. People are seriously underestimating how big this is going to be. I want to play this clip and give you some extra context around it. We're also going to look at a clip from Apex 2025. Ripple has built some of the biggest partnerships and made some of the most important acquisitions in the entire crypto and blockchain space. I want to give you a deeper understanding of why all of this matters so much for their infrastructure and how they're building it out. We're also going to look at Ripple's biggest partners and why they're going to be so impactful for the XRP ledger going forward. Let's get into it. I'm really glad to have a clip from Lewis. I genuinely respect this guy and the amount of research he puts in. So let's hear what he has to say. Basically, what this will allow Ripple to do is actually hold stablecoins as reserves with the Treasury. This is directly integrating Ripple and RLUSD into the government's stablecoin system. That means increased liquidity, which means better performance for XRP, which means increased demand for XRP, which means a higher price for XRP. This is incredible news. But here's the part that got me really excited. This is where we start talking about the bigger picture. Yeah, during this bull run, we might be getting into the range of $10 to $12 for XRP. That's great. But once we enter the utility phase, and I believe that Ripple becoming a bank is the start of that utility phase, I think the moment they sign that deal and the OCC approves it, that is when real utility begins. Because XRP underneath all of this is what allows financial institutions and all kinds of other entities to use it for their transactions. It allows transactions to settle very quickly and very cheaply. Ripple doesn't need SWIFT. Ripple is able to settle massive transactions in coordination with the government without using SWIFT, but instead using the new financial messaging standard called ISO 2022. They can do all of it using Ripple's own technology. Here's why that's really compelling. The moment they do that, real utility begins, because the competitive advantage between Ripple and any other bank becomes very obvious very quickly. Let's say it currently costs around $1,000 in fees to move $1 million using a traditional bank and the SWIFT system. With Ripple, it could cost less than $10. That is many times cheaper. Now, of course, Ripple would add their own fees on top of that, but people would still happily pay because at the end of the day, you might pay something like $200 instead of $1,000. The customer still saves a huge amount of money. The experience is also faster because you can send payments across the world almost instantly. And it's far more reliable because a shocking number of cross-border payments using the current system actually fail. I'm talking fast here because I'm genuinely excited about this. Not only is this going to be a great experience for customers, it's also going to give Ripple a massive profit margin, which is exactly what we want them to have as a company. But when there's profit, other companies and banks start paying attention. They'll ask what this is and whether they can make more money while charging their customers less, and they can. And they won't need SWIFT to do it because Ripple handles the whole thing. It's like an all-in-one software solution that manages everything from start to finish. Yes, please, that's exactly what's going to happen. I really respect how much time Lewis has put into understanding all of this. He works just as hard as I do, and I genuinely love listening to him talk about how he sees things. It really does brighten up my day. If you're not following him on YouTube, you absolutely should. His channel is XRP Lewis, and he has around 135,000 subscribers. Go check him out. He has a lot of really great information. Now let me walk through some of the other major advantages here. Direct access to Federal Reserve payment systems. With instant settlement, Ripple could settle transactions directly through systems like Fedwire and FedACH. Fedwire alone processes $4.3 trillion every single day. Being able to use XRP or RLUSD for that settlement could save the entire system billions or even trillions of dollars over the next decade. We already talked about the lower costs extensively. Then there's regulatory legitimacy and trust. When you hold a national banking license, the US federal government has done all the due diligence on your company. They are essentially saying that you have everything they expect from a company operating as a bank. And once Ripple has that official seal of approval, they can walk into any meeting anywhere in the world and use it as an advantage. That's why this is such a huge deal. There's also compliance readiness. This positions Ripple to comply with upcoming laws like the Genius Act, which requires major stablecoins to operate under strict federal oversight. This is probably a big reason why Ripple is taking this step right now. Stablecoins are going to be under a very close eye going forward, and having a banking license gives Ripple even more credibility, which is exactly what they need. And then there's improved integration for XRP and RLUSD. Ripple could directly issue and redeem RLUSD, manage reserves at the Federal Reserve, and facilitate instant conversion between US dollars and XRP and even traditional currency. This would deeply integrate these assets into the United States financial system. What we're really talking about here is XRP and RLUSD becoming a central part of the US financial system, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been positioned as a store of value, like digital gold. People are buying it for that reason, and it will probably reach very high prices over the next decade. But XRP is going to be a working part of the United States financial system. Personally, I would rather own as much of that as I possibly can, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. Obviously, talk with a financial advisor before making any decisions. With broader Fed access, RLUSD and XRP could be used by more banks and payment providers for cross-border settlements, liquidity management, and treasury operations, making them a genuine part of mainstream financial flows. Now let me show you this clip from Apex 2025 because it's really worth watching. It's about 1.5 minutes long, and it captures something important. We are at a turning point. We are not just modernizing finance. We are making it more inclusive, more accessible, and more programmable. This is a massive opportunity. New asset classes that we can't even imagine today are now possible because you have an interconnected system with XRP. Stablecoins are crypto's newest killer application. There are $230 billion issued on chain today, and the market expects that number to at least 5 times in the next few years. The vast majority of people globally are going to be transacting on-chain, potentially without even knowing it, because it will have proven to be simply better than what exists in traditional finance. Commercial paper, treasuries, money market funds, stablecoins, all of these things are happening today on the XRP ledger. I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who supports this channel. Thank you so much. Now, I also want to look at Ripple's 12 biggest partnerships, because this list tells a powerful story. MoneyGram was one of the early integrations. SBI Holdings is one of the major financial conglomerates in Japan and has been one of the biggest supporters of Ripple and XRP's growth over the last decade, driving XRP adoption across Asia. Santander Bank is a leading global bank that validates Ripple's technology for traditional banking and cross-border transactions. Lian Global is a Chinese payment service provider that helped Ripple enter the Chinese payments market, which is an enormous opportunity. ARX is a regulated digital asset exchange that supports asset tokenization and enhances Ripple's presence in regulated crypto markets. The DIFC Innovation Hub is Dubai's leading financial innovation center and gives Ripple access to the entire Middle East fintech ecosystem, along with some of the biggest banks and insurance companies in that region. Futureverse focuses on metaverse and digital innovation and expands Ripple's reach into emerging digital economies. John University in South Korea is notable because XRP is actually the biggest cryptocurrency in South Korea, even bigger than Bitcoin there. Matako is a digital asset custody provider that was acquired by Ripple and strengthens their capabilities in secure digital asset storage and institutional-grade custody solutions. Hidden Road is a prime broker that uses RLUSD to settle $3.5 trillion per year. BNY Mellon has been working with Ripple for quite a long time, sharing technology to tokenize value. BNY Mellon has $52 trillion under custody, and 1 out of every $4 custodied in the United States sits with them. They are actively working with Ripple and also serve as the custodian for RLUSD reserves. And BDAX is a blockchain and digital asset consulting firm that supports Ripple's regulatory compliance and strategic advisory work. Also worth mentioning are HSBC, Standard Chartered, Flash Payments, TIOS connected to 3,000 banks, Santander, Visa, Coinbase, Transact Bank, and many more. These are the key highlights. Ripple is becoming a key piece of the backbone of the financial system. XRP has moved from being a speculative asset to becoming a core component of a unified financial system. Treasury management, reserves, payment infrastructure, stablecoin, and tokenization, which could reach $1 to $2 trillion over the next 5 years. Ripple will be right there in the middle of all of it. I do have one final question for you. XRP used to be the #1 cryptocurrency in the world, outpacing even Ethereum. Do you think we're going to get back to that? Do you think XRP will one day move ahead of Bitcoin through the tokenization of financial assets and stablecoins on the XRP ledger? If you believe it will happen, how long do you think it will take? Let me know down in the comments. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Crypto Sensei. Aloha. Nothing in this video should be taken as financial advice. This is purely for entertainment purposes. I am not a financial advisor. Please seek professional financial advice if you need it.